Welcome to your 500 word commentaries video on Habakkuk chapter 1 verses 3 and 4. Verse 3 reads, "Why do you make me see iniquity, and why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me, strife and contention arise." Habakkuk is looking around him and seeing all these different things going on: iniquity and destruction and violence and strife. These word pairings in Hebrew, Amal and Sod, and Hamas and Rib, all have overlapping areas of meaning to where they can actually mean the same thing to a certain degree. So what we have could be a form of a literary device of repetition for a certain word or concept, where the repetition is meant to underline and highlight what's being conveyed, to emphasize it. Habakkuk is actually charging God with seeing serious sin going on and not acting upon it. But verse 4 continues, "So the law is paralyzed and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted." Remember that Habakkuk has lived at least part of his life during the reign of King Josiah, who did bring glory to God and favor to Israel through the restoration of the law. That legacy, though, is now being nullified by what's going on around the prophet. What's good and right and what should be flowing out of the people because of adherence to the law is not. Instead, the wickedness, the transgression of all that is occurring encircles the goodness. So instead what comes out is twisted and unjust. You may have noticed by now that while Habakkuk is confronting God, he hasn't yet mentioned any particular source to this wickedness. This might be intentional, it's hard to know. It's likely that he's talking both about Judah's growing wickedness and the threat of Babylon. Going back though to the idea of covenant, Habakkuk's questioning also reflects the idea that God is not being consistent in accordance with the details set forth in the covenant, and with what Habakkuk knows God's character to be. So what are the responsibilities of God set out in the covenant? Well, he's to be the head of the people, to save them, to give them place, to preserve them, and to provide for them. And what's the consistent character of God? A fair portion of that is to exhibit goodness and justice and holiness, and to be unable to abide the presence of sin. It's as if justice is being blocked at the very source, God himself, and this action, or inaction actually, that the prophet is seeing. Habakkuk is saying, I'm looking around and seeing all this bad stuff happening and the sin. What's going on, God? We need you to be who you said you would be. What's talked about in our nation's stories, what we've been told about your character. I want you to uphold the covenant that you made with your people. You are not yourself right now. The bottom line is that Habakkuk knows that God cannot be who he is, mean what he means, and still allow these things to happen. So he's questioning why he's seeing what he's seeing. And just like that, that's your 500 word commentary on Habakkuk chapter 1, verses 3 and 4.